Hey guys, my name is Matthew, and this is my review of Smoke and Mirrors by Neil Gaiman. Here we go. Smoke and Mirrors is a collection of short stories and poems written by Neil Gaiman at various points during his career. Like any collection of short stories, some of them fall flat and some of them are more interesting, depending on your style. In my review of this book, I'll be listing some of my observations about some of the common elements of these short stories and poems. Some of my favorite things about the book will be at the top of this list, and some of my least favorite things will come near the bottom of this list. To start with, one of my absolute favorite things about this book was actually just the variety of stories. There were sci-fi type stories and fantasy things. There were stories about end times and things that were more normal. There were a lot of stories that just gave simple twists to age-old legends and myths that we currently have in our minds already. The variety kept the stories interesting, and I knew not to expect the same story I had just read. In addition to there being a variety of different types of stories, there's also a variety of types of prose. Neil Gaiman has apparently lots of different ways that he can write, and he expresses that throughout these stories. Some of them are written in kind of more flowery prose, and some of them are much more simple, reflecting the point of view of the main protagonist or perhaps the time period that he's writing in. I appreciated getting that variety in the prose and the style as well. It kept things interesting and moving along. There were a few stories in this book that I really liked. Notably, I appreciated the story that was in the intro, which is about a wedding present that I thought was really fascinating. It kept me thinking about it for a while. There are a couple others as well, some twists on legends that we've had in the past and things that just gave a new perspective. These are stories that I've been reflecting on and thinking about, and I really like the twist that he's given. Like I said, some of these stories are really interesting. In particular, I did enjoy the twists. I liked the ones that as you're reading along, you're going, well, this is just a normal story, until something changes. And I really liked the way he added just a little bit of fantasy or just a little bit of sci-fi into an otherwise normal story. I appreciated those ones that seem like they take place in our world and everything seems normal by all accounts, but there's something that's just a little bit off. My biggest complaint about this book is that a lot of the stories were not actually that interesting for me. Many of them, either they weren't interesting or they felt in some way incomplete, like they're ideas that were meant for bigger stories or ideas that didn't get the bones fully fleshed out. I feel like he could have spent more time on some of these stories. Maybe a good editor could have given him just a little bit more of a twist to them, or I'm not really sure, but there's something I couldn't quite put my finger on that was missing from a lot of the stories. And I think that resulted in a lot of the stories really feeling boring. And I hate to say that because some of these are really interesting, and by all accounts, he's a good writer. I think part of it is because these stories, they stretch from very early in his career to much later in his career as well. And so I have to imagine that maybe the ones that feel more boring, or maybe that feel like there's something missing, maybe those are from early on in his career, and that since then he's become a better writer, and that has helped him to flesh out his stories better. So that leaves us with the question, who is this book for? I think this book is for someone who really enjoys short stories. I personally actually really enjoy short stories, and so I appreciated this book. I liked being able to pick up the book, read a story, set it back down, and go do something else. I didn't feel like I had to be invested in reading something that's super duper long. I also think people who enjoy Neil Gaiman's work in general will probably enjoy this book as well. If you want to get a better look into who he is and some of his writing style, then this book would be wonderful for that. I think you'll really enjoy it. This has been my review of Smoke and Mirrors by Neil Gaiman. If you've enjoyed this content, do feel free to like and subscribe, and as always, stay safe out there.